On August 17, 1977, the Big Ear Radio Telescope in Delaware, Ohio picked up the strongest signal it ever saw in all the years it had been looking. The signal only lasted 72 seconds, but an astronomer was so impressed when he saw it on a computer printout a few days later that he quickly wrote "Wow" in red pen across the page. SETI astronomers thought that the data looked a lot like what they would expect to see from an alien intelligence. However, despite many attempts to follow up on the find, the so-called WOW signal has never reappeared. The WOW signal was one of the most exciting moments in the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence or SETI project. Some people think it's the most likely sign of alien life ever, but some people think it's a win for publicity over science. Was that ET or wasn't it ET? Seth Shostak, a senior astronomer at the SETI Institute, says that no one really knows. No one has ever come up with another idea about what that could have been. It's like hearing chains clank in your attic and thinking, oh my god, ghosts are real, but you never hear them again. So what do you think? Most importantly, Shostak says that if the signal wouldn't have had WOW written across it, no one would have ever heard of it. In the early days of SETI, when observatory computers were too old and slow to tell astronomers about new discoveries in real time or do quick follow-ups, this kind of one-off signal was common. But that hasn't stopped astronomers from coming back to this area of the sky over and over again to look for the WOW signal. Jerry Ehrman, who worked as a volunteer astronomer at the Big Ear Radio Observatory, sat down at the end of the summer of 1977 to look over the latest set of data printouts from the computer. The observatory could be run from afar, and it could collect data for several days before the computer ran out of space to store it. At that point, a technician would come, reset everything, and start the next observing run by putting the telescope on a different part of the sky. Astronomers used to know a lot about the Big Ear Radio Observatory. John Krause, a pioneering radio astronomer at Ohio State University, came up with the idea for the telescope. It was mostly built in the 1960s by people who worked or volunteered at the university. It was first built with money from the National Science Foundation so that it could be used to make the most accurate radio map of the sky ever. But Big Ear looked different from other radio telescopes. It looked like someone had painted a football field white and put bleachers on either side of the goalpost. These bleachers were actually feed horns that sent radio waves from the larger reflector of the telescope to the receiver. But when Big Ear finished making a map of the radio sky in 1972, it needed a new job. Starting in 1973, NASA agreed to pay for a search of the sky for radio signals from technologically advanced aliens. This search would be done mostly by volunteers. Along with professional astronomers, a group of doctors, lawyers, school teachers, and college professors from fields that had nothing to do with astronomy also helped with the project over the years. In 2016, Ehrman told Astronomy, "We didn't have much money to work with. We didn't have enough money to pay people, so those who helped did it for free." Every few days, Ehrman would look over large printouts of data as part of his volunteer work, and on August 17, 1977, as he looked through the latest stack of papers, he saw a set of numbers and letters, 6EQUJ5. If you don't know anything about it, it all looked like nonsense, but to Ehrman, the data meant that Big Ear had picked up a very strong signal that started out low, increased in strength, and then dropped off again. That meant that the detector probably picked up the signal when a certain part of the sky passed over it. It wasn't of this world. The signal could only be seen on one of 50 channels. Ehrman said, "It was a narrow-band signal, which is exactly what we were looking for. It didn't take me long to realize how interesting this was, and the word WOW popped into my head right away, so I wrote it down." But when he looked at the data from the next few days, he was surprised to find that the signal never came back. After he met with the director and staff of the observatory, he was even more curious. Together, they looked at that part of the sky for any objects that could explain the signal. The astronomers looked at comets, planets, satellites, and other things, but there was no match. The team had Big Ear watch the same spot in the sky for a month, but they didn't find anything. When they tried again a year later, they still didn't find anything. The SETI project at Big Ear ran for a total of 24 years, making it the longest-running search for extraterrestrial intelligence ever. During that time, though, the researchers never found anything else like the WOW signal. Ehrman, for his part, says that we might never know for sure what he found that day. It was impossible to come to any other conclusion than that it could have been a message from alien intelligence, Ehrman said. In the end, Big Ear died just a few years after Congress said in 1993 that taxpayer money shouldn't be used to look for alien intelligence. The observatory lost the $100,000 in annual funding from NASA and another $50,000 for an instrument that could have given Big Ear a new lease on life. By 1998, the telescope had been taken down by Ohio State University. Over the years, many other astronomers have tried to figure out what the WOW signal was or find it again. But to Shostak and other astronomers, the signal is just one of many like it that have been found over the years. Back then, it was common to only pick up these kinds of signals once, Shostak said. Computers didn't have the ability to do follow-ups in real time. If you picked it up today, the computer would say "wow," and astronomers would point the telescope in the direction of the WOW signal to try and figure out what it was. Once observatory computers got smart enough to do follow-ups in real time, the number of strange signals went down. Shostak says jokingly, "The aliens knew we had better gear." For example, astronomers have found fast radio bursts, or FRBs, in the past few years. At first, FRBs were thought to be strong radio signals that only happened once. One of the most important new developments in astronomy has been the discovery of FRBs and the progress made in figuring out where they came from. Shostak, on the other hand, thinks that the public is much more interested in the WOW signals than astronomers are. At least once a month, I get emails from people who look at that printout and use the data in all kinds of ways, he says. People often think that it's an alien code that's being sent to humans as a direct message. They don't realize that the combination of numbers and letters on the printout was just a rule set by human astronomers at the observatory. Since the printouts couldn't handle numbers larger than 9, the display goes through a series of letters, starting with B, to show the order of increasing intensity. Shostak adds, "People think that they know what the message is or how big the aliens are. There are about a dozen numbers, and the only thing the printout tells you is the level of intensity. But even if it was the first message sent to humans by aliens, Ehrman has no idea what it could have said." He says, "Who knows? I don't know what, if anything, the message could have been about, thus burying the whole mystery under the rubble of time to be forgotten forever." And you? What do you think may have caused such a strange phenomenon to happen? Was it really the aliens? Or was it just some passing space wave? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel.